It'll be all right. I think it'll be okay. Really more for the audio. All right, so when it comes to the CFSC approach, that's the Certified Functional Strength Coach approach. This is a certification I have for strength training athletes. It's a little bit more of a simplified approach than the CSCS, which is mandated if you're going to be a college strength and conditioning coach. It's a good add-on to have after you get your CSCS. So after you get your CSCS, if you're a strength and conditioning coach for athletes, it's going to be wise to get more certifications. Every year you want to go through professional development. One of those is CFSC, and they really break down training that makes it easy for you to understand and palpable. So we'll talk about how to kind of set up your training template. So when you first start off, you start off with the mobility portion. Now this can be anything from breathing exercises to foam rolling. Okay, we add in there mobility drills, stability, and then we have our dynamic portion. And dynamic can be strength and locomotor. And then you have your stability, which can be static and dynamic as well. So there's different components. When you open up the link where I have the links provided for the exercises, you'll be able to go in and see, once you go in the PowerPoint, once you go into the assignment directions, I have links for all the different components. So when you're filling in your mobility, you're looking for about anywhere from 3 to 8 exercises here that you can start with. Now, if you don't have a lot of time to foam roll, then that might be the first thing I skip. If you don't have a lot of time for mobility drills, that might be the second thing I'd skip, okay? But in a good world, if you have the time, you wanna try to fit everything in about an hour, hour and a half time, okay? Now, like I said, going over the directions and everything can take a while, so it might take a long time for your athletes to get a good routine. So you might have to take stuff out or stop early. So, but for mobility, you want to think about 3 to 8 exercises, okay, just like we did last class. Then you have your power bucket, okay, and this is going to be probably 2 to 3 exercises depending on your group. Now, it might be 1 power exercise and a core exercise. It could be 2 power exercises and a core exercise, or it could be 3 power exercises. So if you're in phase 1 of training, you might not do 3 power exercises. So if I look at your phase 1 training, I wouldn't want to see something like a hang clean, maybe like a 1-arm snatch and like a sprint. I might want to see a little bit more of an easier approach if you're going to be training for phase 1. So maybe adding some stretching in there or some dynamic work. But basically power, you have your med balls, you have your plyometric, so your boxes, your hurdles. Okay, you could do agility drills here. You could do reactive training here, speed work. Okay, and then obviously you have your Olympic lifting here as well. Okay, depending on your size and how many students you have, if you have the racks. Obviously we can't do Olympic lifting because it takes a ton of instruction. You need classes on classes of training to teach Olympic lifts. It's not something we should just try to run through fast Olympic training. So you have your power, your 2 to 3 exercises. Then you have your strength portion. Okay, your strength portion, you have your upper, lower, and your core exercises. Now, if you're training 1 to 2 times per week, or even 1 to 3 times per week, you're gonna want full body training. Okay, if it's 4 times per week, that's when you might split and go upper, lower, and then if it's 5 or 7, then you might go more body part, and that's probably going to be for more people that are into hypertrophy. That's probably not going to be more sport specific. That might be overtraining if you're an athlete. Athletes are probably going to get 2 to 3 sessions a week, typically going to be full body or upper lower body. When you're training upper and lower body, upper you have your push, your pull, okay? Both are going to be in the horizontal and vertical way. So you can have a horizontal push, horizontal pull, a vertical press, and a vertical pull. So we're going to include all these in our exercises today. Then you have your lower body, which is your squatting and your hinging. So this is more knee dominant. This is more hip dominant. And then you have your core, which can be anterior, lateral core, diagonal core. It can be rotational core. So there's a lot of different ways you can train core, okay? So for today's exercises, and then obviously you have your conditioning bucket at the end here. This is gonna be your long, slow duration training, or basically your high intensity interval training, or medium distance, medium duration training, or medium intensity training. So you'd wanna pick one of those as your fourth and final stage of your training. So you warm them up, go through some power work or sprints, sprinting 2 to 3 sprints. Make sure you rest 3 to 5 minutes between each sprint. When you're strength training, make sure you get an upper, lower, and core. Make sure when you're doing upper that you're not only just pressing horizontally, that you're pressing overhead, and making sure that you're pulling down and as well rowing as well. So those are the 4 main upper body movements. Obviously you have things like single joint movements like bicep curls, tricep extensions, leg curls, stuff like that, or hip flexion. Those are single joint, those are accessories. Those can be done after kind of like the main lifts if the athletes want to hang out and maybe finish up some single joint efforts, or if they're working towards hypertrophy, that might be more your style. But for athletes generally, you want to hit the major body parts, and then also the main lifts like squatting, hinging, pushing, pulling, and then core exercises like sit-ups, anti-rotation, and stability exercises. Okay, so that's basically it. When you're thinking about strength for the phase 1 strength, you want to think reps are generally going to be higher and intensity is going to be a little bit lower. And then in phase 2, reps are going to be a little bit lower, intensity is going to be a little bit higher. Okay, and remember, every phase of training you want to go up and down when it comes to periodization of your intensity and volume. So you're always kind of fluctuating every 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, so for our workout today, we're going to go ahead and get this going in the next couple minutes. So today I just have your power and strength for you, just so when you get into groups you can check out the PowerPoint to see what the exercises are in case you forgot them. Typically you do want to have these printed out for your athletes, maybe like a little card for your athletes so they can go around and check it off. But today I just have it up here on the screen. Basically, we have our chest press, a split squat, and a straight leg sit-up at pod 1. We're gonna have 3 different pods. So 3 pods, 3 exercises at each pod. There's gonna be 9 total strength exercises today that you're gonna perform. We're gonna be in 3 different groups, and there's gonna be 2 stations at each pod. Okay, so everyone's gonna be doing something different, 2 people at a time. So for example, we'll have 2 people chest pressing with either the dumbbell or barbell. 2 people will be doing a split rear foot elevated split squat or a goblet squat, and then 2 people will be performing straight leg sit-ups in pod 1. Pod 2 will have individuals deadlifting or rowing with either the band or the TRX, either a pull down vertical or a horizontal row. And then we'll have you perform a side plank at pod 2 as your 3rd exercise. And then at pod 3, we'll have a shoulder elevated hip lift on these boxes. We'll have an overhead press with the dumbbells, and then we'll have a physio ball circles for core. So each one is going to have upper, lower, and a core component. And this is going to make sure that you're hitting the whole entire body, and it's not overtraining one body part more than the other. Now today would be more of a knee dominant or a hip dominant day because we have a shoulder elevated hip lift, which is mainly glutes and hamstrings. We also have a deadlift, which is glutes and hamstrings. Okay, so now that might happen where you have a couple exercises of the same muscle group But then on day 2, I might have 2 knee dominant exercises. For example, a lateral squat could be one exercise with weight, and then the other exercise could be a goblet squat or a back squat. Okay, so every day I might focus a little bit more push, and for upper body, for example, today is chest press and overhead press, and only 1 rowing and pull down exercise. So day 2, I would have 2 pulling exercises and only 1 chest press exercise. And then if I was training day 3, I would do the opposite. You see how you're kind of giving your whole body a chance to recover as well as get stimulus all around. And so that's why we have straight leg sit up, anterior core, side plank, side core, and then physio ball circles, which is challenging anti-rotation core. So 3 different types of core training too. So we could do a rotational core exercise with a cable band or cable or band. We could also do a diagonal lift, which is a rotational core exercise, but we could probably plan those for day 2. So just remember that there's different types of lifts, and you want to try to include them in the different days and try to change it up day to day. Okay, so any questions about today's lift? So our power exercises are going to be ladder drills, med ball throws, or slams. I'll be showing you one new throwing shot put today, and then hurdle, jump, and hop just like the other day. Okay, so that's kind of the plan for today. We're going to start in our own space. We're going to probably skip the foam rolling just to save a little bit of time so we can get into our strength. And we're probably not going to be doing any multiplanar movement, dynamic movements, because I want to make sure that we get into the strength portion for today. Okay? Any questions before we get started on how you might plan for rest times or using your training template? Any questions? Has everyone checked out that training template assignment so far? Does anybody have any questions about it? All right, so let's go ahead and find some space in the room. It can be in and around the